Welcome to r/confessions, where we get to hear the most disturbing confessions on the internet. Now for the first story. I was raped. I'm posting this from a throwaway account because I just needed somewhere to get this off my chest. My 31F, so 38 meters, and I have been in a relationship for coming on 10 years now. The relationship has been a controlling, manipulative, and abusive one filled with many fights and abundant ups and downs. In the early years of the relationship, the fights were harrowing. He would destroy my phone, so I couldn't call anyone for help, disable my vehicle, so I couldn't leave. He was physical on many occasions, and had punched me in the face a few times. A few breakups and makeoups and our relationship got better to where he wouldn't physically hurt me anymore. The fights shifted to hurling insults at me. He began telling me nobody would love me, I'm difficult, crazy, etc. My self-worth was constantly destroyed. When life starts getting hard for him, or he's too stressed from work or other life pressures, he becomes emotionally abusive. When life are going okay, then our relationship is typically okay. It's a constant cycle. Well, a few months ago, we began a downward slope. His insults just got nastier and nastier. I started feeling more and more unloved, alone, depressed, and worthless. It got harder and harder to deal with all these emotions by myself, and I reached out to a man, I'll call him Mark, that I dated for a few months during one of the periods where myself and I were not together. I was feeling very lonely, vulnerable, and depressed. Mark and I always got along so well, and there was always a deep attraction and spark. He invited me to lunch and I agreed. We chatted and caught up with each other, like we had never stopped talking. It was great at first. After we were done, we went to his car to sit and talk more as it was raining. Once we were in his car, he leaned in and kissed me. It felt amazing to be kissed so passionately again by somebody. The kissing got more passionate, and then he unbuckled my belt, which is the point where I started telling him no. Mark ignored that and took his pants off and pulled me onto him with his hands on my waist. I said no, please stop, repeatedly. Please stop, no, I don't want to do this. Mark kept going. When it was over he immediately acted off and said how in the past I would always say no at first. I don't know how to process this. I have nobody that I can tell it happened to. I feel like this is my own karma punishing me for agreeing to go to lunch with him. I just wish men would understand the word no. Now for the next story. I'm addicted to masturbating. I do it every night, and more times than once. It has become a compulsion at this point. I don't even want to do it anymore. I'm wasting so much time on it too, because I'm using it as an escape for my thoughts. I easily stay up until 4 or 5 in the morning reading and looking at porn. I'm a female, so seeing only guys ever talk about it makes it that much harder to seek help. This topic is so intensely embarrassing that I can't bring myself to tell anyone but Reddit about it. Now for the next story. I'm in love with my best friend and I'm going to disappear forever from them. I'm 26 meters, coming to a point in my life where I'll be free from my current lifestyle. A clean slate. I can and will look for a new job and do or go wherever the wind blows. Heck, I'll move across the street, city, state, country or world. I've never felt more free and optimistic towards the future. However, I've fallen in love with my longtime best friend, 28F, and I took a chance by confessing my feelings for her, yet she didn't feel the same way. I totally accept that and respect that, but I have come to terms that I can't lie to myself for her that a friendship is all I ever want between us. Even after I confessed my feelings for her about 6 months ago, we remain amazing friends and our bond has only grown, but my heart still feels for her. I decided that, when the time comes, I will not say anything. No goodbyes. Nothing. I will simply fade away. I'm not angry, bitter, upset, or dejected. I'm simply ready to let go of everything including her. Now for the next story. I can't stand disabled people, basically the title. I don't mean people with autism, who can still mostly function as a human. Or people who just can't walk. I mean people who are so close to brain dead that they drool constantly and have to have help to do literally anything. I know it's probably bad of me to think this, but they make me so uncomfortable, and they kind of gross me out to be around them. It's not living. They're just alive. I also can't stand when you have parents of children who can barely walk and can't make more noise than AAAAUAAAUAE at the age of 15, 18, 25 and they talk about how beautiful their baby is. Even small children who are severely mentally handicapped make me uncomfortable. I don't have a problem with people who are autistic but decently functional. I just can't stand the ones who are barely alive and can never be normal. I just had to get this off my chest. I feel like a terrible person for it. I know it's not their fault or anything, and I don't blame them. I just can't stand them. Now for the next story. I was scared my daughter would be heartless and cruel for a long time. My family sucks. My father would be diagnosed a narcissist if he ever got an actual evaluation. My mother was never meant to have kids and got me and my brother taken when I was around 8. My daughter's father is a good guy, but he is emotionally stunted. He doesn't know how to handle emotions whatsoever, and I'm a passionate person. His fix to everything is to give someone food or drink, which is great, but he's just not the person you go to if you need comfort. He will sit there and ignore you if you're crying. Not intentionally, but he sort of checks out whenever anyone has some sort of emotion. My daughter, now 5, was diagnosed autistic at 3. She doesn't understand complex emotions and how to read them unless they are drastic. She knows if you're laughing or smiling, that you are happy. If you are crying, you are sad. If you are yelling, you are angry, etc. Today, I had a rough patch. I was mourning for the family that never really cared for me, and I found it difficult to deal. I stayed in bed, alone, and started crying. My daughter, walking past my room, heard me, rushed in with drinks, a blanket, and pillows. She started saying things like "Mommy love. I love you mommy. Are you okay? Are you sad? Her name, loves you." She peppered me with kisses and hugs. She tucked me in and just laid with me. After some time passed, the tears stopped. Eventually she started getting goofy, trying to make me smile. She booped my nose and acted like a bunny, her favorite animal, and it worked. I started giggling with her and eventually sat up and was able to take on my day. She's 5. Her talking is limited and her cognition on social cues aren't what her peers are, but she's so loving. She comforts people, she loves hard, and she's just a little ray of sunshine in a really dark storm. I honestly don't think I'll ever accomplish anything in my life that's worthwhile, just because I'm so in awe of her. Giving birth to her was my best work. Now for the next story. He agreed to me pegging him. I know this isn't your average confession post, but as a girl I really want to explore my dominant side and take up pegging. Problem is I found the perfect boy in every aspect. We complement each other so well. I was so scared of telling him the way I felt at first, because some guys can be really sensitive about this. Anyways, I ripped off the bandage and told him, and it turns out he has always wanted to be pegged, but he never told anyone ever, because he was also scared of how I'd react. So we looked up some ones that we like, and we are gonna try it out. Now for the next story. I like quitting jobs and wasting company's time the same way they make me waste my life. One of the most liberating experiences of my life was telling my boss of 8 years to shove it. I was completely high on an adrenaline-like feeling for days after it happened. I felt truly free for the first time in years. Now I can't stop chasing that high. Basically for the past year or so I've been getting hired at a job and working for a couple weeks until I finally decide I've had enough. Usually I'll just make it through training and up to the point where I'm expected to perform my job adequately, and then I'll just quit and move on. Usually I'll already have another job lined up, but sometimes I don't. It's become so addicting because not only do I not have to worry about being locked into another multi-year drudge, but I also exist with the knowledge that I can move on at any point. I'm living well within my means and I have enough saved up that I can miss quite a few paychecks without worrying. Not only that, but I've also gotten a couple dozen good quitting stories out of it. My favorite being the time a customer at Subway was cussing at me and the rest of the employees because a line was moving slowly. I guarantee he didn't expect me to look him in the eye and tell him to eat my asshole before sliding his sandwich into the bin. Basically, I'm tempted to get a van and travel the country doing this for the rest of my life. I know the thrill will wear off eventually, but the feeling of not being tied to any one place or job is just too great to give up. Now for the last story. I faked suicide attempts to escape my parents' house since CPS wouldn't do anything. My parents are racist, homophobic and hyper-religious. I'm bisexual and they would make me sit and renounce being bi every morning before school. They banned me from talking to anyone other than them and my teachers. They put me in sped classes so I wouldn't have the opportunity to date. I was already battling mental illness and a few learning disorders, and I heard a girl talking about being sent to the hospital for a few weeks because she tried to kill herself. I had the great idea that I'd start taking a bunch of Tylenol and pretending like it was because I wanted to die. I already spent a lot of time in hospitals for physical issues. How would this be any different? The 2 weeks of the hospital were literally the best of my life. I was getting the help I needed in a safe, structured environment. I was away from the abuse and I could talk to people without worrying about getting beaten. So I kept doing it. Eventually, at 13 I actually became suicidal and my attempts got more serious. I kept asking for CPS to come take me to a new home, and they couldn't find any fault with my parents. All the abuse was verbal, so they couldn't find enough proof. I made non-reports as often as I could, and they couldn't do anything, and eventually stopped responding to my calls. I think my longest stay was 3 months, and I miss it. Thanks for the awards. My life is much better now, and am no longer actively suicidal, and I have a kid, so I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. If your child is struggling with their mental health, please try to get them help and understand where they are coming from. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. It doesn't just go away. Don't force help either. Listen, communicate. Join communities of people struggling with mental illness and ask for advice, or ask your child what they want and what will help. Communicate and make mental health an open, ongoing discussion. Do check-ins and take mental health days. Join support groups for yourself and always question everything. Do your best to work with your child, not forcing or against them. Nothing works if they don't want it to. Be supportive, be kind, and set realistic expectations. Ask where they are struggling and help them. Don't shame or judge them. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Have an amazing day.